What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Soccer Performance Podcast. We're here for episode 4. So today we're talking about the ideal training week for a young athlete. In this example, we're going to use somebody from the ages of 13 to 16. They have a game on the weekend and they train twice a week. So for this example, we're going to use, let's say, a game on Saturday, a training day of Tuesday and Thursday with your team. And so we want to give this episode a focus on how do you structure those other days, what can you do on the same day as your team training. So if we're giving a Monday to Sunday week, Mario, how would we start that Monday?
Yeah, so obviously, training twice a week with your team is not enough. So let's say Monday you coming in, Sunday you would have had off, have you had a nice big game on Saturday. Monday we could start off the week strong with 2 sessions that day, one in the gym,
Right.
one on the pitch. So in the gym, that's where you could really do your main strength work. Whether you have access to a gym, that's great, but at home you can make use with a lot of bodyweight stuff. So your lunges, your squats, hamstring bridges, glute bridges, your push-ups, and any core exercises. That's a good day to put that stuff on. And then, the ball, there's quite a bit of options there.
So Saturday we played, right? Sunday we had off. So Sunday we took a full recovery day. Monday we're back. Like Mario mentioned, we're lifting strength-wise. If you have access to the gym, that's probably the day where you're getting into the gym. I would say on an individual basis, the ball work now has to be exactly that, individual focus. A lot of your, call it ball mastery exercises, you're really using that first training day to push a lot, to train a lot. Tuesday is going to be a team training session, so maybe you already have an idea of what you might be doing in that team. So on the ball, on the Monday, you can either complement what you're going to do on the next day, or you can say, hey, I'm probably going to be doing this on my team session, so I'm going to be doing this. I think that...
So what would that look like? Like, what are they doing with the ball?
Yeah, so for example, that day is the day where I'm referring to ball mastery at home, right? I'm referring to things that you can do outside of your team training. So maybe that's the day where you're going to a field and you're practicing your dribbling. You're practicing your keep-ups. You're practicing hitting the ball up in the air, bring it down. If you have a friend that's on your team and you're off, that's the day where you guys go to the park together and incorporate that. I'm going to talk about a little bit more how you can get individual technical work on that day, on that second day off. But for now, we'll move on to the Tuesday team training. So
Tuesday, they train in the evening with their team.
Mm-hmm.
Much to do during the day, would you say?
I think that's subjective. I think that it goes back to, I think a lot of players say, okay, I'm going to have a team session, so I don't want to do too much. Mm-hmm. I think it just goes back to really evaluating what you're doing in that team session. Yeah. If you feel like the team session is a hard session and you're fatigued, then maybe it's important to take that morning off. If maybe the session is going to be light, or maybe the team is not training as hard, and you feel like you want to do more, I think there's enough space to do something, right?
Yeah. So perhaps some mobility during the day. Make sure you feel good for team training.
Right.
If you're feeling good, why not a little bit of ball,
exactly.
A little bit of ball mastery work just sort of prime you for the team session, so you don't come in flat. Let's say, I don't know, you were sitting down all day in school and you did nothing all day.
Yeah.
I know me personally, I would feel flat coming into training back then.
Yeah, exactly.
Wednesday. So Wednesday, kind of similar to Monday, we're going to go twice a day.
Yeah, Wednesday we're off, by the way, right? So in our hypothetical scenario, Wednesday's off from the team responsibilities. So go ahead and mention how would you incorporate your fitness.
Let's go in the gym work. So we had a little more strength base on Monday. You could do a little bit of that as well, but preferably we're starting off with speed work, plyometrics. You would want to be sprinting once a week to increase your speed over time. So that could be as simple as after a very good warm up, you have 3 to 4 sets of 2 to 3 reps of sprints, starting at 15 meters, let's say.
Okay.
And each set you can add 5 meters. So let's say set 1, you're doing 2 or 3 15-meter sprints, long rests, 3-minute rests between sets,
right.
1 to 2 minutes between reps, making sure you're fresh between each rep. Make sure it's really quality. And then maybe set 2, you could go 20 meters, set 3, 25 meters. After a few weeks, you can increase the distances. But, you never want to just jump straight into, 40, 50 meter sprints when you've built no foundation of acceleration.
Right.
Then, your single leg hops, your jumps, landing, plyometrics, all that stuff, finishing off with that bit of strength. So you can make that Wednesday very productive for your speed development.
Right.
And that's kind of, still far away enough from your match on Saturday, so you'll recover in time. And that being said, more technical work.
Yeah. So I think, and again, we're assuming that you trained with your team on the night before, right? So if you had done the gym session the Monday, right, maybe you have some leftover soreness and stiffness, but I don't think that should impede you from doing these things that Mario's addressing. And I think that the where I'm going with this is they have to be done at a high enough intensity, right? Where I was going with that is, I've had people ask me in the past, like, what is plyometric? If you had to describe plyometric work to somebody, what's the basis of plyometric? What makes it effective? It has to be done at an intensity that is explosive, right? So I would incorporate the ball work to match kind of what you did in that lift, right? It's going to be very similar to the Monday that you did your ball work, but maybe now you're doing it, instead of focusing so much on the technical side, now you're working a little bit more on the speed of it. So now maybe you're taking yourself to the field, putting 2 cones down, practicing going through those cones faster, right?
So to touch on that, so it's important that the theme of the day stays relatively consistent. So this day is about being fast, speed work, that plyometric explosive work, So high intensity, playing at a high tempo with your ball work. Like it has to be merged together. You don't want to do one thing fast, one thing slow. So that theme of that Wednesday stays consistent. The theme on Monday was different. And then the theme on Friday, which we'll get into in a little bit, will also be different. So you can train pretty much every day as long as you change the focus of the day, not just mindless training. And we spoke a bit about this last episode, like that purposeful training.
Exactly.
Will take you a long way.
And just to recap, just so that we're on the same page with everybody that is tuned in, right? Saturday game, Sunday off. Monday you did your individual stuff. And I think that's where I kind of want to add a little bit more to the conversation. We're assuming again that you don't have the possibility to have an extra session, whether it's at a place like this or at another private trainer, or maybe it's a speed coach or something outside of that, right? Ideally, that's where you want to give time to on those days. But if not, what can you be doing by yourself? We're going to dive deep into what a at-home strength workout would look like, what an individual technical session would look like. So it's just a brief overview, but I think we're trying to show you guys that every day there's room to add a little bit more to your training routine. So now we're Wednesday, we did our second individual day, right? We did our physical work that was more geared towards speed and explosiveness, and we matched the ball work with that. On Thursday, again, depending on your judgment based on how
pretty
you're
much
feeling.
The same as Tuesday, right?
Right,
So.
and now you've accumulated, now the difference being is you have 3 days of training, right, under your belt now. So maybe that Thursday might feel a little bit more like a long-term fatigue feeling. So it could be that on that team training day, you give yourself the day off, you show up to your team training, right? You put all the focus on that. That leads you to the Friday, right, which is the day before the game, I'm sorry. So now what does that day look like on a physical
really
perspective?
important, day before the match. The session, we want to keep it short, we want to keep it sharp. So intensity high, volume low. So that high intensity, right, that's to prime you for the game, keep you sharp, but the volume's low so it won't carry any fatigue, right? So you start off, make sure you're warming up really well, as you would all the other days. You could do a little bit of agility work. So that could be some change of direction without the ball, whether that is kind of 5 meters there and back, a 505. You could play around with angles, changing direction, doing 45-degree cuts, 90-degree cuts, and also doing that with the ball. So, let's say 3 to 4 reps per leg. So you're changing both directions. Right. 1 or 2 sets with and without the ball. That is enough. Yeah. Making sure rests are long, so we're not accumulating fatigue. 2-3 minutes, ideally 3 minutes between sets. keeping it sharp. So that's just a little bit of agility, a little bit of reactive stuff, keep you sharp for the next day. And then what do you think for the technical work? You know, we still want to keep that short and sharp.
Yeah, I think, I would just add the same things that you were saying, and I just incorporate the ball. Like if I'm a winger, right, I might take myself to the field on the Friday. I play Saturday, I might find a field that has a net. Do the same things I was doing on the Wednesday. So on Wednesday, like we talked about, we were doing those high-speed runs, right? Taking a man on, taking that ball through the cones, simulating a game scenario. Friday, I might actually go to the field, right? Take that man on, take that defender on, finish on goal, right? Work through patterns that I might come across in the game. And that's if I'm a winger, for example. If I'm a center mid, maybe that day I'm hitting more passes. What's going to be the most likely thing you're going to do in your game, and what are you going to encounter the most? And can you put yourself in a position where mentally, physically, and technically you've gone through multiple scenarios so that game day you're not, doing things for the first time. That wraps up, again, back to that Sunday off, right? So I think I want to move the conversation to, this isn't a perfect scenario. How do you handle it when maybe you've accumulated sleep, maybe you have a lot of homework that day, right? How do you structure that? What would you say on your days off now if if outside responsibilities have to take first? What would you give priority?
So we can even do 20 to 30 minutes of the ball work. 20 minutes is better than doing nothing, right? Still every day, right? So you're in touch with the ball. Right. You're working on some sort of skills. The gym session, right, you can cut that short. You could do 2 sets, don't have to do 3-4 sets of each exercise. Get it short and sweet. If you have to, a 20-30 minute gym session, just doing your 3 main exercises, whether that's a squat, a lunge, some sort of hamstring exercises. Right. You get those 3 in, it's not the best, right? It's not the full session, but doing those things consistently will improve. Yeah. So if you have to cut back, we can go that way. But of course, you've got to be productive with your time around training.
I think it's a good moment to talk about the timing. Like Mario's saying, right? If you're doing work on your own, I think there's a misconception that the goal is always to feel fatigued, right? And to work until you feel tired. And so we'll dive into details, like I said, into how to structure a personal strength session. But you want to do it, you want to treat each session, and you want to plan each session so that you know what the focus is, right? You don't want to go and take your day off and just show up to the field and improvise and just kind of be there because you end up going, let me do a little bit of this, let me do a little bit of that, and the reality is you don't do enough of anything.
And it's low intensity, usually. It's lethargic, right? So going in with that theme, today, it's high intensity, we're doing this, that day's more passing. Yep. You're going in mentally with that makes a huge difference for sure. But let's say Saturday match day, what are you doing during the day? This is subjective in my opinion, depends on the person. I think, and again, we haven't even touched recovery, we haven't touched any of the things, but one thing I want to talk about is the fact that this is all assuming, right, you're getting at least, I'll be realistic. Least 8 hours of sleep.
And I'll be realistic, right? Let's say 7. Let's say 7 being reasonable, saying you have assignments in that, right? But if you're not getting 8 hours of sleep, sometimes the benefit of all this extra training ends up being, or not the benefit, the result ends up being more harmful than good, right? So you have to be very wise and don't sacrifice training, right? But you don't want to now just put yourself in a situation where you just have to check off a box. Regardless of what you did, how much you slept, how hydrated you feel, you're just like, well, I got to train because that's what I said I was going to do. Right, and I think that there's a lot of value to give to that. We'll go into detail in a further episode, but right on the topic of getting to game day in the best form, right? I think that's where I wanted to start. Great sleep on the Friday, especially, and the Thursday, right? Studies show the night even prior is important to get a good night's sleep. Hydrated. Like you said, it's subjective, right? What do you do that day? Some people might like to play
video games all day. Maybe. Someone has to be active. Yeah. I know me personally, right? If I'm sitting down, I'm watching TV, I'm trying to rest, but being lethargic is also not the answer for me. So even just going around, playing around with my friends just a little bit, passing the ball around, taking some shots, just to feel
just to move
and get that energy flowing. And then I personally feel better for a match. It's not a professional setting where they arrive hours before the match and they're gonna have a tactical, they're gonna have some they have physio and all this stuff. So you gotta find what works for you. But in my opinion, just sitting down doing nothing is, it's rare someone can do that and then go in and they feel at their peak.
Yeah, and we're talking to young players, right? It's something that I think is also, not spoken about often, is you're going into a weekend game where you're playing 50 minutes, right? Most at this age group, most games are going to be playing anywhere between 30 and 45-minute halves, and of that, maybe one or two players play the whole game. So you did all that work Saturday, you get to your game and you played about 50 minutes. At this youth development, at the end of the day, I don't think that the team demands are high enough where you can say, I don't do anything extra on my Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays, right? Absolutely. I think exactly is what I want to really hit home is that, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you did extra work. But if you now put in a little bit of whatever you feel that you need, right? On the Monday on the Tuesday, your team trained, on the Thursday, right? If everybody else is also working on their day off, your little 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whether there's technical, whether it's, like you said, some good strength movements, will add up, right? And I think we're being very general with what we're referring to, and I do want to talk about that in a separate episode. But I think that's a good overview. One thing I wanted to ask you is your Sunday day off, right? What's a good way to spend a day off? Yeah.
So touching on kind of what you said, if your minutes were limited on the Saturday, do you really need that Sunday off?
Yeah, exactly.
So one, in my opinion, playing with friends, but it doesn't even have to be soccer. So playing, it would be good, but keeping active in other ways, playing other sports, going outside, going for a walk with your friends, family, just going out and doing something. An active recovery day. And if you didn't play much, hey, who's to say why you can't do a little bit extra training or kind of work on some of your own weaknesses on that day, and then Monday comes and you're back with that kind of training schedule we outlined. But I don't know, what are you thinking?
No, honestly, I think the same. I think, for example, in terms of strength and in terms of gym work, there's obviously there's more structure, and you can't really be too fluid with that. It's not very, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You have to have a little bit more plan. Like I said, we'll go into that. But regarding ball work, for me, it just depends on the intensity. Like, I can go out to the pitch and do keep-ups, just toss it up, bring it down, work through movements at a low intensity just to see how I want to improve this cut, I want to improve this move, I'm going to do it slow, right? I'm going to then do it again Wednesday, but my mentality is I'm going to do the same things but more intense. So now I'm not doing keep-ups, I'm hitting the ball up in the air because I'm trying to recreate the situation where I'm bringing it down. I might bring it down and change my speed. So it ends up being manipulated by intensity, by game realism. And then if I'm Friday, right, if I'm going onto the Friday where I have that opportunity again, I might put everything together. Hit it up, bring it down, change the speed, change the direction, finish on goal, right? So it goes into the intensity is what makes the difference. If it's not game intensity, it will not improve you, right? I think if you're doing it at low intensity, it's to teach the body how to move, teach it the right mechanics.
In initial stages.
Exactly.
And then once everything's in order, now you got to get better at going faster and faster and faster.
And from a competitive aspect, I don't know about you, but if Saturday I didn't play much, Sunday I have to train. I want to train. I want to be there. If I'm hurt, if I'm tired, fine, I'll rest. But if I feel like I didn't do enough, then my competitive aspect wants to do more, right?
Exactly. And think about, right, if you miss a few games, Saturday not playing, not only do you miss that competitive, that is training, you get better by playing matches, so you miss that component. You miss a lot of high intensity physical training in a way, right? Nothing replicates match intensity, right? All the high speed running, all the changes of direction, right? So if you don't make up for it, as your teammates will continue to get fitter, continue to get better, and you will just continue to fall behind. So you have to put in that extra work, that extra time in, or you will fall behind.
And it's funny, anybody that's ever been to a professional match, like if you stick around long enough, when the whistle blows, the guys that were on the bench that didn't play, right? Maybe you greet the other team or whatnot, but right away you're on the line, you're getting your distances in, so
Yep.
that you don't fall out of that fitness, right? So that you don't fall behind, so that if you are needed the next game, physically fit, you're there, right?
Even if you played, but you had limited minutes, so players who kind of played under 30 minutes generally in the first team, plus who are on the bench, let's say the guy who played at least 30 minutes, he'll have a little bit less post-match conditioning than the guy who played 15 or less minutes, but they're all putting in that extra work in because they got to still continually to build that fitness and across the season.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to kind of chat on. So we're talking about if you are training by yourself. Now, how important is it, throughout the week, let's say replacing some of those sessions with, I don't know, if you can, a pickup, going to some pickup playing with your friends at school, just playing small-sided games, 4v4s, 5v5s, because growing up at recess, we played every single day. And I think that was so important.
And it's finding opportunities to play more. I think, and it goes back to the quality of training that the team is giving you, right? If I'm training on the Tuesday, right, but the team session is an hour, out of that hour, let's say it started at 7, right? Everybody in by 7:10, warm-up's done, 7:15. Okay, coach is explaining what you're going to do, 7:20, first exercise, 7:25, right? You do it for 10 minutes, 7:35. So you did your focus work, whatever the bulk work. Now, usually, right, most sessions are structured to finish with a game to put together what you trained. So now, 7:40, it's a 20-minute game. So you trained for 30 minutes. So that means that Monday, right, you did yours, let's say it's an hour. Tuesday, 35 minutes. Wednesday, let's say another 30 minutes. Thursday, team session, another 30 minutes. In 4 days, you've accumulated 2 hours of training, right? So you might think that you're doing a lot because you were physically present for that long, but the quality of what you did is not the same.
Yeah, it's not just about being physically present. It's, the quality training is how much time you accumulated being mentally present in the training and really benefiting from each rep you take. You know what I mean?
I usually see anybody that's physically present. There's a lot of players that have responsibility and okay, I go to every session, right? And physically they're there, mentally they're not there, and 9 times out of 10, those are the players that get hurt, right? Those are the players that check out. I think it's important
to improve.
Exactly, to pay attention to your body and to give it the rest that it requires, but to make sure that if you decided to train, and it's not like a recovery-based session or it's not a slow session, that you really train with the intensity that you set out. That's why I went back to that. If you're doing your own sessions, before you go to the field, write it down, right? So that you have an idea of what you want to do. You might not be a strength coach, right? But search up on a YouTube video, hey, at home body weight strength, right? We want to make sure that we can guide and do those things, but I feel like there's so many resources that if you watch 10 YouTube videos, you may be able to distinguish, okay, you know what? These are the commonalities. I'm going to do this.
Put something together, exactly. But of course, check out our pages, see 100%. What they're doing at Athlete Labs, see what I'm posting. We'll record some more stuff too. Take key stuff from there. Like you could definitely apply some things there.
Yeah, and I like if you guys aren't, the people that are listening right now and aren't following Mario, he's currently posting a lot of that type of content. He's posting a lot of training guides. And it's so useful if you don't overlook. I think that it's so important that players don't just use social media to just kind of like scroll. Like really try to stop and read and consume quality content, right? It's so easy to just kind of go on like whatever, 433 and look at highlights and just look at things that are going to be like entertaining. But if you're able to really filter what's quality and hopefully, we're giving that off, that's going to improve your game, right? Yeah. I think I want to dive deep into the details of how to structure those individuals in the next couple episodes. So I think that's what we'll focus on.
So to recap, lots to do there. Ooh. Done.
Should we recap?
Yeah, so to recap, right? So Tuesday, Thursday, you have your team training. Monday, Wednesday, you have, some gym work and some ball work to do. And then Friday's your pre-match prep. Saturday, Sunday, right? Do what you got to do before your match to make sure you're feeling ready. And then Sunday, if you didn't play much, catch up on training, do that extra work. If you played a lot and you need to recover, still, you still want to be active in a way, play other sport, go outside for a walk, hang out with your friends. And I mean, that'll take you a lot farther. So
yeah, so we gave a very brief 7-day kind of breakdown. We'll go into detail on what every day would look like if we were to just focus on that. But yeah.
Cool.
Sweet.
So that wraps up the episode.